Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. As I don't know at which time you're going to watch this video or view this video, I wish you all everything. So today we are going to understand an economical concept, which is a concept of economics, which is rent. Now, rent is a very commonly used word. This rent is basically a type of remuneration. Now, that this particular remuneration may be money remuneration or anything on any service in return when we are availing a particular service, not a commodity, a service. For example, we college students, we avail public transport, right? Metro, bus. Okay. So when we are availing this bus, we are availing what shall I say, using or availing a particular commodity owned either by a person. The bus is owned by a single entity, a single individual, privately owned, or by the state, government owned, right? So when we are using this bus or availing this bus for our service, for our own need, okay, we have to give the owner of the bus something in return. It may be a money remuneration or it may be another type of service. Okay, so as we are giving this, so the thing which we are giving in return due to using the commodity owned by someone else, this return is known as rent. Okay, for example, the ticket, the price of the ticket of a bus is the rent which we give to the bus owner for using his or her bus, right? Okay, now rent may not always be a money remuneration, it may be something else. For example, let's say I have a friend who has a very good video camera, who has a very good what shall I say, hi-fi level photographic camera, right? So let's say I am using that friend's camera to shoot my videos. Okay, so I am availing his I am getting a bit service from him. I am availing the services of his camera from him, right? So as I am availing the services of his camera from him, I have to give something in return, right? Now I may give him a little bit of money, this is money remuneration, or I may say to him that as you are providing me with your camera, I will make sure that all your doubts are clear regarding a particular subject. So these things, the second thing is a service remuneration, where I am offering him another type of service for his service to me. Okay, so in both the examples, what I am giving in return is my rent to that person who is owning the camera, right? So today, at this very moment, we are now going to understand the Ricardian theory of rent. Now let me tell you a story. Let me narrate a story. Okay. There was a person called Ricardo. Okay, so he used to like pizza. Okay, he owned a very big plot of land, fertile land, but he did not know how to cultivate food crops, and he liked pizza very much. Now one day a farmer comes to him and asks him that, as you own this big plot of land, can I grow a bit of crops in your land? The crops which I will grow, I will sell some crops in the market, I will use some crops for my own consumption, and I will give you some crops for your own consumption. So the proposition of this farmer tempted Ricardo, and Ricardo thus agreed to allow the farmer use of his land. Okay, so the farmer, what shall I say, took part in agricultural procedures on Ricardo's land and got a huge produce of corn. Okay, so after this farmer got a huge produce of corn, as promised, he gave Ricardo a bit of corn. Now remember, this is the rent. Okay, this is commodity rent. Okay, so he gave Ricardo a bit of corn. He took some corn for himself, and he and he took the rest of the surplus, not the surplus, he took the rest of the yield to sell it in the market, right? Now after selling it in the market, he was able to generate a lot of income. So after selling the produce, he was able to generate a lot of income. Now Ricardo saw this, and Ricardo, while eating his corn, thought that, okay, I like pizza, he has given me corn for my own consumption, very good, but how will I buy the dough? I need to buy the dough, either I need to buy the dough, or I need to buy the flour to make the dough so that I can have my pizza. I am just eating corn here. So let me ask some sorry for the interruption, the person who supplies us with bit of water from the local water supply or the water tap came. I will come to this later. Okay, so as I was saying, so Ricardo, while eating his corn, enjoying his corn, thought that how I am going to buy the flour? I need to buy the flour. So let me ask some money from that farmer. So he goes to the farmer and says that, okay, you have given me corn, very nice. I am enjoying my corn, but I like corn pizza more than normal roasted corn. So you give me some money. You have generated a huge income. You give me some money, and I will buy flour with that money. Now the farmer asks, why I will give you money? Why shall I give you money? I have promised you to give corn, so I have given you corn. Why shall I give you money? Then Ricardo thought of a very good answer and said that idiots, idiotic van just went out the. I will again come back to that example as well, or that bot-boti thing, whatever that happened. Okay, so the farmer asked Ricardo, why shall I give you money? I promised you to give a part of the corn. Be happy with your corn. Then Ricardo said that no, you need to give me money because I have allowed you to use my land. You are using my land's minerals to grow this huge produce of corn. Okay, you know that my land is very fertile, so as I am allowing you to use my land, you need to give me corn as well as you need to give me money so that I can buy the flour. If you do not give me the money, I will not allow you anymore to produce crops here. Okay, so the farmer then thinks a bit, goes into a slumber, and then says, okay, I will give you a share of my profit. And then Ricardo agrees. Now after getting the share of his profit and buying flour from the market, and while making pizza, while making his pizza, Ricardo thought that, oh, I have deduced a big thing. I have deduced how economics works. I have deduced what is rent. So let me publish this theory of rent. And thus came the Ricardian theory of rent. This is totally a made up story. Please don't write this in your exams. But yeah, this is the idea. So here we can get two examples. First example was the corn. The corn was acting as a rent, right? Commodity rent. Second came the share of profit. This is a money rent. Okay, so rent not necessarily has to be money. It can be something in return other than money, but something in return for use of a particular commodity owned by you. So rent is what? Rent is something in return you get from someone for letting that someone use a particular commodity owned by you. Understood? Good. So let us discuss the points and read the points of Ricardian theory of rent. So according to Ricardo, rent is payment for original and indestructible power of land. As I said, Ricardo, you owned a big plot of land. So this big plot of land had its own mineral reservoir, okay, had its own water holding capacity. So these are indestructible powers. These powers or characters or features of the land is already present, already inbuilt. Okay, you cannot change them. So rent is thus the payment for these original set of powers of the land or the original characters of the land, right? So this is it. And as I said, payment can be of two types. It can be a money payment, it can be a commodity payment, or it can be a service payment, right? Okay. Then comes the total supply of land is fixed. Supply of land is completely inelastic. Even if rent increases, the supply of land will not increase. Now Ricardo said that around the whole world, the amount of land fit for cultivation or fit for any activity is fixed, right? The land cannot increase. The supply of land will not increase. Thus, supply of land is inelastic. In my elasticity video, I said that those products whose supply do not increase, even though the demand of those products, those commodities change, the supply of those commodities which do not change with changing demand are inelastic commodities, right? So land is an inelastic commodity, and no matter how much rent increases, no matter how much demand of land increases, land will not increase. Supply of land is always fixed and it will never increase, right? So this is another assumption, second assumption of Ricardo. The third assumption of Ricardo is land is used for only cultivation, and that land is used for the cultivation of single crop corn. So Ricardo assumed that land is only used for cultivation. People do not use land for other things. They only cultivate crops on land, and the only crop that can be cultivated in any land is corn. So this particular point is challenged, was challenged after its publication, and the criticism is based on this point as well. Okay. Then the fourth assumption of Ricardo is there exists perfect competition in the market for land, which implies that there are large number of owners owning different plots of land and compete with one another to lease out. So perfect competition means large number of suppliers, okay, large number of sellers, and these large number of sellers compete with each other to rent out their lands. Okay. The fifth assumption is there exists perfect competition for corn as well. So as there is perfect competition for corn, there is demand of land for cultivation of corn, because these various sellers of corn will try to generate more generate more yields of corn, so that they get the maximum share of profit, and thus this will in turn raise the demand of land, thus resulting in perfect competition in the supply, thus resulting in perfect competition in the land market, right? Okay. The sixth assumption is the law of diminishing marginal productivity operates. Now, marginal productivity is a concept. It's a concept where, for example, you are a factory owner and you know that you require 10 people for optimum profit, right, or maximum profit. So when you will employ the 11th person, you see that there is a drop in profit. So this drop in profit, you do not want that. So your marginal capacity, the maximum capacity is 10, right? And the last, the amount of profit, the increment in the profit due to the addition of the 10th member is the marginal productivity. Okay. This means that if I, what shall I say, focus more labor on land, okay, then after a particular point of time, this accumulation of huge labor on a particular plot of land will be detrimental and will thus result in loss of what shall I say, product, crops, or yield of crops, or result in loss of profit. Okay, good. And then the seventh factor is land is a free gift of nature. Okay, so land is a free gift of nature. Land is already gifted to us by God, by creator, by universe, whatever you want to believe. Okay, and thus as land is a free gift of nature, it has no production cost. It has no production cost or supply price. Okay, and rent here in this case is not a part of this cost of production. It is a surplus which the owners owning the lands get. Okay, this rent which they get, that does not suffice the production cost. That is totally a bonus remuneration which they get for owning the land and leasing this land to other people, right? So on the basis of these assumptions, Ricardo developed his theory of rent. Okay. Now, based on these 7 assumptions, according to Ricardo, there are 2 types of rent. One is scarcity rent and another one is differential rent. Now, what is scarcity rent and what is differential? Well, first, to understand these 2 theories, we need to understand the words, right? So, what is scarcity? Scarcity means something which is present in very less quantity, right? Something, when we say that something is scarce, we say something is scarce when the demand of that particular commodity or entity is more than the supply. For example, supply of water bottles at this very moment, let's say, is 50, and demand of water bottles at this very moment is 500. So at this very moment, the water bottle commodity is a scarce commodity, right? So this is it. So the scarcity rent states that, for example, there are 100 plots of land. Okay, there is an island, and then in that particular island there are 100 plots of land. Now you, being a seller, you have reached that island. Okay, after reaching that island, you have settled in that island. Okay, very good. Now after settling in that island, there are 100 plots of land, so you have occupied 1 plot of land. After seeing you prosper, many other sellers have arrived at that island. Now when the 100th seller will arrive at that island, the island will be totally occupied, right? Now when the 101st seller will come, and if he wants to reside in that island where you have resided, he needs to provide rent or a particular type of remuneration to the present 100 sellers who are residing in that island, right? So that he can reside in that island, right? So why does he needs to provide remuneration? Because no more available land is there, and as Ricardo said, that the supply of land is inelastic. So as supply of land is inelastic in that particular island, if the 101 person needs to stay and build his life in that particular island, he needs to provide rent. So this is how, due to what shall I say, shortage in supply, this is how, due to shortage in supply of land, or this is or scarcity of land, what happens is that rent, the concept of rent has arrived, which means that for use of another person's land, you have to give rent. And now another comes the differential rent. The differential rent states that in this particular island, let's say there are 90 plots of land. Now 30 plots of land are very fertile, very good. 30 plots of land are moderately fertile, and 30 another plots of land are very less fertile, quite coarse, I must say. Okay, so what happens is that you come in this island and you want to, and you have occupied the one of the plots of the most fertile land in this island. Very good. Now people seeing you get inspired by you and want to live in that island. So what happens is that the 30 most fertile plots of land gets occupied. Now when the 31st person arrives in that particular island, the 31st person has three options. Okay, in scarcity rent, the excessive person, the excessive person had two options, is that to either reside in that island or to pay rent to the what shall I say, initial residents of the island, right? In scarcity rent there was two options, but in differential rent there are three options for the 31st person. What are those options? The 31st person can leave the island. The 31st person can occupy the moderately fertile land, or can occupy one of the plots of the moderately fertile land, or the one of the plots of the infertile land, or the 31st person can pay a money remuneration or provide any other type of remuneration to those 30 people, to one of those 30 people who are occupying the 30 most fertile plots of land. So if the 31st person avails the first option, the remuneration which he is providing to the what shall I say, the remuneration which he is providing to the owners of the fertile plot of land is the differential rent. Okay, so these are the two types of rent according to Ricardian theory. Now there are the criticisms of Ricardian theory. What are the criticisms? According to Ricardo's theory, rent is the payment of original indestructible power of soil, but there is no such thing because land is cultivated. In modern times, we have seen that due to what shall I say, development in farming procedures, at this very moment, infertile land can also be made very fertile, and thus there is no such thing called indestructible power of land or indestructible property of land. Okay. The assumption that land is a free gift of nature and has no production cost is also not correct. Land may be a free gift of nature, but when we are making a infertile land fertile, or we are trying to cultivate a particular type of land to grow crops, we employ a huge amount of labor, right? So this huge amount of labor we are employing to cultivate a particular plot of land or to make a unfertile plot of land fertile, we what shall I say, we incur a huge production cost, and this is the production cost which is what shall I say, this is the production cost of that particular land. So the point, the argument that land has no production cost has been criticized, and it has been proved wrong. Now Ricardo's theory of rent is only applicable to land. According to Ricardo, only the land can only when you are using land, or when we talk about land as a commodity, only then rent is applicable, or rent is applicable only in case of land. In other factors of production, or in other factors of production, or in other types of production, no, I won't say type, in other factors of production, according to Ricardo, there is no concept of rent, but this is not true. We will see some examples later, right? In case of differential rent, it is assumed that farmers first cultivate the most fertile land. Now, as I said, in case of differential rent, the first person occupies the most fertile plot of land. But this is criticized based on the fact that how the person knows which land is the most fertile and which land is the least fertile if that person is visiting a particular place for the first time. No, not all people are God, that they have an initial, what shall I say, initial idea of the surroundings they are going to live in, right? Okay. So this is another what shall I say, criticism of the Ricardian theory. The fifth criticism of the Ricardian theory is that the supply of land has been considered to be inelastic. Okay. The supply of land has been considered to be inelastic, but this is on a, what shall I say, large scale. The supply of land is inelastic on a large scale, but to a single farmer, the supply of land is not elastic, and the farmer can if the particular farmer, let's say, owns 100 plots of land, he at a particular point of time can rent 10 plots of land, he at a particular point of time can rent 30 plots of land. So this is how a farmer owning a certain amount of certain amount of plots of land can increase the supply or decrease the supply of land depending on the rate of rent in the land market, available in the land market, right? And thus in micro level, the supply in a macro level, though the supply of land is inelastic, in a micro level the supply of land is not inelastic. And the last criticism of this theory is that that land is suitable for cultivation of only one crop and has no other alternative use. This is totally, at this very moment, is considered to be, what shall I say, very rudimentary dialogue, that land has only one use of cultivation and it can only produce one crop. No, land has many, what shall I say, uses. For example, land can be used to make buildings, land can be used to make residential complexes, land can be used to make commercial complexes, land can be used to cultivate various crops, rice, wheat, barley, jute, tomato, whatever you want to cultivate. Okay. The particular land can be excavated and the mineral reservoir of that particular land can also be used to support a country's what shall I say, economy. Okay. And sometimes in under the land there is presence of oil, which can help us build an oil company around that particular plot of land. So land does not only has one use, it has many use. And when we talk about cultivation of crop, land is not only used for cultivation of a single crop, land can be used for the cultivation of many crops as well. So these are the 6 criticisms of the Ricardian theory of rent. In the next video I will discuss the other factors, how rent is present in the other factors of income, and I will also try to give a basic idea about the concept of wage. So till then, stay safe, stay happy, goodbye.